All right, Sandbox MMA fans, today is the time to talk about UFC 308. Dana White had announced a number of fights over the weekend, and I'm going to break it down, just talk a little bit about the event, my thoughts specifically about the fights that have been announced for UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi on October 26th. Just giving my thoughts, my breakdowns. I'm going to give early predictions for who I think may win. But we're going to start with the main event, and holy shit, what a main event. Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria is on the Abu Dhabi card, and I got to say, I love this. I love this being on the Abu Dhabi card as the main event over Salt Lake City because I want to see these guys at their best, not at crazy elevation and getting tired. And I get these two guys have pretty good cardio and they don't usually tire out, but I want to see these guys at their best. They're going to fight in front of Abu Dhabi. There is no preferential Abu Dhabi treatment here. I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. High level fight. Ilia Topuria, possibly one of the most dangerous boxers in the UFC. Not the best, but the most dangerous. Crazy cement in his hands, coming off his knockout win over Alexander Volkanovski and a 50-44 performance over Josh Emmett. Insane. And then you have Max Holloway coming off of one of the most famous performances in the history of the UFC, beating Justin Gaethje at 155 pounds for the BMF belt at UFC 300. And these are the two guys that we all wanted to see duke it out. I get that Volk is entitled to a rematch, but I don't want to see it against Ilia right away. I think that Ilia would just chin Volk again, and I don't want to see that, so I'd much rather see this matchup, see how it plays out. You have two guys that have crazy hype next to their name, and they are the main event for Abu Dhabi right now. This fight is sick. Initial thoughts? I'm leaning Max Holloway, but I'm not sticking on it. I could flip back to Topuria. I'm going back and forth a lot. I do think Topuria is an insanely talented fighter. He's been yapping a little bit. It's been annoying me. Max been yapping, but it's been fun. I mean, I'm a huge fan of both of these guys, if I'm being honest. But Ilia, as he's owned the belt, has become a little bit more annoying to me, just with the fact that he's trying to tell everyone that Max is the one ducking, and he finally got forced to accept the fight. It's like, even Dana White, who glazes John Jones, said you don't have to force Max Holloway into a fight. That doesn't happen. This is such a high level, great MMA fight. This is the most anticipated fight of the entire year. We have crazy fights coming up. We have Izzy versus Dricus, crazy fight. I'm not nearly as excited for that as I am for this fight. This is the fight that we all want to see. I'm leaning Max. I think he can get more done via decision. I think Ilya is going to have some good rounds, though. I don't think he's going to take Max's chin. But I do think he's going to land some really, really good boxing combinations where Max is going to need to use a little bit of his kicks, and he's going to have to mix things up really well, just be fast and be able to string together combinations and really try and overwhelm Topuria. That's the way Max is going to win this fight. Topuria can be a shot selector here where he can land some powerful shots that we see might hurt Max a little bit. Maybe not knock him out, but hurt him. This is just, there's not much else I can possibly say about this fight other than, wow, I am so excited now, as I am a massive fan of Max Holloway. There are some very insufferable Max Holloway fans that are talking about how he's going to walk through Ilia, easy work for Max. Guys, Topuria is not easy work. He's not. Just because Max beat Gaethje, who only throws two-strike combinations, and just isn't as skilled as Max, doesn't mean that Max is going to beat the shit out of everyone now. Like, yes, he is one of the best fighters that we'll ever see. Yes, he should be on everyone's favorites for Mount Rushmore. Yes, he's a top 10 fighter of all time. Top 10 fighter of all time is Max Holloway. But this is not a walk in the park. Let's not make this seem like it's an easy fight. Ilia Topuria is the real deal. Some of the most damaging and dangerous boxing that we've seen in MMA. Not to mention, he has grappling. He can wrestle. I mean, this is such a fun fight, guys. This is going to be a war. I'm leaning Max to win a decision here, 48-47. But we'll see. I may end up switching to Topuria. Regardless, I think this fight goes to decision. I don't think anyone's getting knocked out. I think we are going to see one of the most fun fights. And there's some times where you have crazy fights like this booked, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a sick fight, and it ends up just being like a boring one. Like Strickland Costa, people are like, oh, it'll be a good one. Nope, boring. You have like Leon and Colby, oh, this one's going to have heat on it. Boring. You know, shit like that. Like Leon and Usman, boring. Like a lot of Leon fights getting involved in there just because he's not that fun. This one will deliver. This is the one fight where if you're like trying to convince someone to get into the UFC. Trying to convince someone to get into MMA, even though UFC is the premier promotion, you should just have them only watch UFC. This is the fight that you're like, dude, sit in front, watch, and enjoy. This is going to be an absolute insane fight. This is like Halloween weekend, I think, too, or the weekend before Halloween, something like that. I am appalled with how good this fight is going to be. I'm so excited, and this isn't the only fight on the card that got announced. I'm so excited for this fight more than any fight that I've had anticipated all year. But we also got Whittaker versus Chimaev rebooked. Now, this is a sick fight. Really, really fun. However, Chimaev doesn't deserve this, dude. Kudos to Whittaker for stepping up and taking this fight, but Chimaev does not deserve this fight. He pulls out of all of his fights. He had a chance at Whittaker, and he pulled out because he had miniature food poisoning, which all I do is shit soup for 12 hours when I get food poisoning and throw up, and then it's over the next day. But no, Whittaker had to last second get a tooth replacement because he had some of the worst tooth pain you could possibly have, which if you've ever had that kind of tooth pain, it's really, really bad. But he ends up taking the fight, stepping up to fight Ikram Aliskerov, and knocks him out in a round. Now, Ikram is not near the skill that Chimaev has. But he's a talented fighter. And he had the chance to fight Whittaker on short notice. He took it, savage Ikram, but Whittaker went in there and put him out, made a read immediately, and put him out cold. The best performance we've seen from Whittaker, and Whittaker is now in this point in his career where he looks like he is just in there to absolutely beat people up. He had his fight with Dricus where things got weird there. He beat Izzy. Let's not forget that he beat Izzy in the second fight and got robbed by the judges. But, he's beating everyone up. He beat the piss out of Vettori. He beat the piss out of Costa. And he bit down on the mouthpiece against Costa, too. They were exchanging. And it was good to see Whittaker go into the exchange and go into the fire and say, I'm not getting back down. I'm not going to wilt. He is not wilting. He looks like a different kind of contender right now. And I'm going to pick Whittaker to win this fight. Chimaev, there's too many question marks around him. One thing that I needed to say, we need a backup opponent yesterday for this fight. We need one because we don't know that Chimaev will actually make it. So Whittaker's now taking a fight again against Chimaev when Chimaev just doesn't deserve it. He calls everyone out. They're trying to rocket him up the rankings because, these types of fighters in this area have privilege, even though they want to say, oh my God, dude, our fighters are getting robbed. There's so much bias against the Muslim fighters and the Dagestani fighters and all these guys. No, there's not. Umar got a number one contenders fight against Corey Sandhagen after beating no one in the top 15. Now, Umar didn't deserve that fight, but he won the fight and he deserves his number one contender fight now, or he deserves his title fight probably now. But Umar got his privilege. Islam Makhachev, now, as much as I like these two fighters too, I like Umar, I like Islam a lot. Islam's one of my, top 15, top 10 favorite fighters, top 10 in the UFC right now for my favorite fighters. Islam Makhachev is in there. But they had to rob Charles Oliveira from the title. They robbed the title from him by saying he missed weight when we've seen Khabib miss weight way worse. But, he does the towel thing. Even though Oliveira, it seems sketchy because in the back, he makes 155. He comes out, he goes to 155 and a half. Bullshit. They wanted the fight in Abu Dhabi so Islam can win on his home turf, even though he lives in Dagestan, Russia, not in UAE. But, the people in UAE have to treat it like, that's their hometown guy. I get it. And Islam is the best fighter at lightweight. And he's much better than Charles. But that should not have been in Abu Dhabi. And Islam got walked into Abu Dhabi because of his privilege. I sound like a liberal saying people got privilege, but these fighters are getting privilege. Khamzat Chimaev gets Whittaker. Okay. Falls out of the fight. Gets Whittaker again. This is insane to me. This is absolutely insane to me before you hit the counter argument with the Chimaev and the Ankalaev. What has Ankalaev actually done to deserve it? Knock out Johnny Walker? Okay, he is a ranking spot, but you know what? You can do more with Alex Pereira, and no one's interested in watching Magomed Ankalaev fight. At least the other three guys I've mentioned, Umar, Khamzat, Islam, everyone wants to watch them fight. Chimaev, no one wants to watch fight. I mean, it's just insane to me. I don't think Chimaev deserves this fight, but it is a sick fight, and I'm very, very excited for it. I wish they made it 5 rounds. Because in 3 rounds, I'm going to pick Whittaker, but 3 rounds makes it much easier for Chimaev to get a decision, because he can survive. I don't think Chimaev lasts 5 rounds with Whittaker. I think he survives the 3 rounds with Whittaker, loses rounds 2 and 3. But if Whittaker comes out and fights the way he did against Ikram Aliskerov, he is going to beat Khamzat Chimaev. And when I think about it, Whittaker's been training for Khamzat Chimaev for a long time. He knows what he's getting. Khamzat's had consistent health issues. He's got a ton of shit going on where he's scamming his fans and everyone's coming after him. He's sparring YouTubers. Like, dude, he's dropping out of fights left and right. His last fight was a year ago from this date when he fought Kamaru Usman, which he drew Kamaru Usman. I mean, I don't believe Khamzat deserves this shot again at Whittaker. He should be fighting and again, I get Amavov is fighting Allen, but he should be taking a shot up at a Cannonier. He should be taking a shot up at anyone other than Whittaker again or Strickland. But no, they made the fight. They probably paid Whittaker a bag, and I bet Whittaker took the fight because he said, I can beat this fucking guy. And I think he will. But 3 rounds compared to 5 rounds make me far less confident than I was 2 months ago when they had booked a fight in June. Or a month and a half ago. Because I picked Whittaker then. And then he was going up against Aliskerov, and I picked Whittaker again. I'm picking Whittaker again here, but in a 3-rounder, I'm less confident than I was a month and a half, 2 months ago when it was a 5-rounder. Just saying it. I am. But we move on, because this is a sick, sick co-main event. Dana continues to roll out the red carpet for Abu Dhabi. Now, we have talked about this fight already. This fight has been booked for a while. Ciryl Gane, Alexander Volkov. Not going to spend too much time on this because if you want to know, I've already spent a lot of time on it on my other video. But this is a great fight. Gane, Volkov. I'm going to go with Volkov here. Now, I may switch my pick. These are not locked-in picks so far. I am on Holloway, Whittaker. Now I'm on Volkov. The first fight that they had there were close rounds. Like, Volkov lost, clearly lost. But there were rounds that were close, and I think Volkov has improved a lot more recently than Ciryl Gane has. He's gotten bigger, stronger, he's training a lot, and Ciryl Gane is going to film movies. It'll be over a year since he fought by the time they walked in the octagon this time. And Volkov gave the hardest fight to Aspinall that he's had, which is crazy to say, because he got walked through and submitted in a round. But he gave Aspinall the hardest fight he's had. I think Ciryl Gane is good. I think he's fast. I think he's talented, but I don't think he has power in the hands, and I don't think he's knocking out Volkov. And in a 3-round fight, I bet that Alexander Volkov can be defensively sound enough and mount enough offense and have a good enough game plan where he's going to go in there and beat Ciryl Gane, who hasn't been in the octagon in a while. I think Ciryl Gane is going to drop the first round immediately based off of ring rust and not knowing how to handle Volkov and his new improvements. I don't know that Gane is actually improving. Maybe in his wrestling game, but he doesn't need to improve that against Volkov. He needs to keep striking and he needs to work up different techniques. But Volkov is improving. Volkov is using his range better. His defense has went to another level. It has. Then he's beating dudes up. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He's got the momentum, and I'm going to go with Alexander Volkov here. Now, I know the UFC would rather see Gane versus Aspinall for a title fight than Volkov versus Aspinall 2, but I do think that Volkov is going to be the deserving contender once he wins this fight. Really talented, really skilled. He hasn't lost since fighting Aspinall. Volkov versus Gane, I'm going to go with Volkov, but this is a feature fight, guys. This is insane. This is the main event of a fight night right here. And there's a feature fight on a pay-per-view here, so this is awesome. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. I like that Ank's getting a contenders fight. Now, do I think of anyone at light heavyweight, Ank is the most deserving of a title shot? Yes. 100%. That's irrefutable. But like right here, clearly treated unfairly. He hasn't really beaten much of anyone. Like, you're throwing a not that worthy contender in there. Now, of all the contenders at light heavyweight, he is the most worthy. But he hasn't fought since January, and he knocked out Johnny Walker. Join the fucking club. Everyone knocks out Johnny Walker. Before that, he got a DQ, or he should have been DQ'd against Johnny Walker for the illegal knee, but instead, they called it a no contest because they were in Abu Dhabi. You got a guy in Magomed Ankalaev here who's doesn't throw a lot of volume, but throws hard and throws powerful, and he has a good offensive wrestling game, but Rakic can grapple too, and I think Rakic is a more technical striker than Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev has the power, but we saw the way Rakic fought against Hiri. He couldn't miss his jab. He couldn't miss his two. His low kicks were really good, and I think Ankalaev's legs can get beat up by low kicks. I'm going to go with Alexander Rakic to start. I may switch and go to Ankalaev, but Alexander Rakic is really good. He just physically lost to Jiri Prochazka because Jiri took everything and then just kept walking him down in insane fashion. I think Rakic is the kind of style that can beat a Magomed Ankalaev. I'm leaning Rakic. I don't know yet. I may switch back to Ankalaev because Ankalaev is very good, guys. He is very, very good, very talented. But whoever wins this fight, like if Ankalaev beats Rakic here, he is undeniable for the light heavyweight title shot next. Whereas now there are enough people saying, well, I don't really know. This is undeniable. If you go into that fight with a resume of Rakic as your last win, and then Johnny Walker, and then, a draw with Jan Blachowicz, which should have won, honestly. Those are good names. That's a good resume to go fight with. So, I lean Rakic a little bit, I think, but I don't really know. This is an awesome fight. This is the fourth fight on the card, and I think there's a 6-fight main card because there were 2 other fights announced. Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. This is a sick fight. Really good fight. Now, thank you for saving UFC 303, Dan Ige. How are we going to reward you? A fight on the Sphere with a top contender that you deserve? No, we're going to give you Lerone Murphy in Abu Dhabi. That's tough. Now, this fight was booked, it got canceled, and they rebooked it. Now, Ige's probably getting fucking paid to take this fight. But, I'm going to lean Lerone Murphy. I think he's technically sound enough to stop what Ige does, and I think his straight shots are going to be better than the counter hooks that Dan Ige is going to try and land on him. I think he's going to use his kicks better, and I do think Lerone Murphy's going to end up winning this fight, but this is a really, really good fight to open up the main card, unless it is a 6-fight main card, because, you got 2 absolute warriors that are down to scrap in here. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be good, technical, strong strikers. Very, very excited for this one. Dan Ige versus Lerone Murphy is a sick fight. Dude, Dana rolled out the red carpet for Saudi Arabia, for Abu Dhabi, because, oil money fucking pays, man, and it tells. He's putting on these crazy events. And you want to know something? Abu Dhabi has no say in who wins this fight. Abu Dhabi has no say who wins in this fight. They do in this fight. If it's close enough, it's going to go to Chimaev, which is fucking stupid. But in the title fight, Abu Dhabi has no say in who wins this fight. They don't care. They don't care who's going to win the other fight that I'm going to show you. But Lerone Murphy and Dan Ige is a fucking banger. It's just sad that Dan Ige kind of got disrespected and has to fight against Lerone Murphy, a legit-ass contender. But who knows? The winner of this fight's going to be definitely getting a top 10 opponent. Maybe like a top 7, maybe gets a chance at the top 5 if Lerone Murphy wins. He gets like a Yair Rodriguez, that'd be fun. But Dan Ige, Lerone Murphy, another sick fight. There is one more fight on this card that we're going to talk about. If I can find it here. It'll be on some page, right? Yep, right here. Boom. RDA versus Jeff Neal. Now, I don't know why RDA goes up to welterweight and just gets a chance at a top contender. Not a top contender, but like a top 10 guy. He just gets it, even though he got beat by Luque in his last chance. Who's like ranked 14 or something like that, or 15. May have lost his ranking spot to Joaquin Buckley. I don't really get it. But, it's RDA versus Jeff Neal. I would rather have had Jeff Neal fight someone else, but RDA's getting the fight. Again, this is going to be fun. I don't think that RDA is going to be able to take Jeff Neal down, so it's going to stand on the feet. And I reckon that Jeff Neal's boxing is going to absolutely piece up RDA, and he's going to win this fight very easily. Might even knock RDA out. But this is another good fight, like really big name. RDA versus Jeff Neal, a semi-big name because of his fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov. This is a good one. Again, rolling out the red carpet for Abu Dhabi. I love it. They got to fill out some of these prelims now, but honestly, they can put shit on these prelims and nobody's going to care. This is a better main card than UFC 300. We can compare it. Pereira versus Hill. While the outcome was awesome with a first-round knockout, Topuria versus Holloway clears that through and through. Not even close. It's not fucking close. Co-main event of Whittaker versus Chimaev versus the co-main event of Zhang Wei Li versus Yan Xiaonan. Yeah, give me Whittaker versus Chimaev. Then you have the feature fight, Holloway versus Gaethje, which is going to be better than Gane Volkov. So I'll give them that. The Holloway-Gaethje thing's better. But then you have Arman versus Charles. Sick fight. Against Ankalaev Rakic. I'm going to lean Arman versus Charles. But again, it's pretty close. Arman versus Charles is the one that most people were excited for. But then you have the opening fight, which is Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage versus Dan Ige, Lerone Murphy. Yeah, give me Dan Ige, Lerone Murphy all day. So you got 3 fights that I would rather better. And the thing is, Topuria versus Max clears every fight that you could have possibly wanted. This card is sick. UFC 308 did not disappoint. Dana cooked. If you have any other fights that you think Dana should put on the card, let him know. But be careful because it's prelims. We still need to put fights on UFC 307. No idea what the fuck Dana's going to do with that one. But overall, this is a great fight. My main takeaway from this is Khamzat Chimaev does not deserve this fight with Whittaker, but he's getting it. And it's going to be a banger, and we're going to love it as fans. But 3 rounds is scarier than 5 rounds. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe.